Hello everyone, I got the idea for this video from Claudi Milder, and Claudi Milder's rules were simple. First 10 studio albums and you had to own them all. But I decided straight away that if I make a video I will include the live albums for two reasons. Simply because I love live albums, and two, if you own 10 albums from somebody, it's much more likelier that you are missing the live album than some studio album, which in theory makes this much more difficult. But once I started checking these bands and artists from whom I have first 10, there were, by the way, there were several that I had, for example, 9 albums. Queen, for example, I have the first 9 albums, and then after the 10th album I have all the rest of the albums also. Yeah, this turned out to be much more difficult than what I anticipated. But let's start with those where there are no questions. These are the 10th albums and I have them all. First one is Chris Isaak, Mr. Lucky from 2009. Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith from 1983. Then Dr. Feelgood, On a Job, live album from 1981. Scorpions, Love at First Sting from 1984. Then Finnish band, Sleppi Sleppers, Voikka ja Huikka, 1984. Status Quo, If You Can Stand the Heat from 1978. Elvis Presley, Blue Hawaii from 1961. ZZ Top, Recycler from 1990. Again, Finnish band, Ego Trippi, 10 from 2017. And Hurricanes, Rockin' from 1982. Yeah, those were simple, no question, those were the 10th albums. Then albums that have just a little bit of a question mark. This is Thin Lizzy, Black Rose from 1979. 10th album, no question, but there's also one EP. Then Rolling Stones, Sticky Fingers, 1971. This is the 10th album, but this does not include the live album Got Live If You Want It, because I don't consider that to be part of the official Rolling Stones catalog, because it was not released in the UK. Bruce Springsteen, Human Touch from 1992. Again, no question, this is the 10th album, but he released 2 separate albums on the same day, so both of those albums could be 10th album. I just chose to show this one simply because the catalog number on this one is the smaller one of the 2. AC/DC, Fly on the Wall from 1985. Again, this is the 10th international album, so I'm not counting the 2 Australian releases. Bob Dylan, Self-Portrait from 1970. Nothing unclear about it, it's the 10th Bob Dylan album. The only question is that what the fuck is this stuff here? Emmylou Harris, Last Date, live album from 1982, her 10th album, but there are also 2 albums that she made with Graham Parsons, the second of which, Grievous Angel, also credits Emmylou Harris on the sleeve. But I see those albums as being Graham Parsons albums. Kiss, Unmasked from 1980, no question about it, this is the 10th Kiss album. But there are also the 4 solo albums, which I personally think of as being Kiss albums, but obviously those are solo albums. Okay, Rory Gallagher, Top Priority from 1979. This is his 10th solo album, but if you also include the 3 Taste albums, 2 studio and 1 live album, that makes Against the Grain from 1975 his 10th album. Okay, then Whitesnake 1987. This is the 8th Whitesnake album, but there are also 2 studio albums from David Coverdale. And since essentially Whitesnake is David Coverdale, I thought of including those 2 as part of this. Okay, then I was actually kind of surprised that I own the first 10 albums from Elton John. This is Captain Fantastic and a Brown Dirt Cowboy from 1975, which is his 10th album if you include the movie soundtrack Friends from 1971 as being his album. If not, then Rock of the Westies from 1975 is his 10th album. Then Tom Petty and Heartbreakers, Into the Great Wide Open from 1991 is Tom Petty's 10th album, including the previous album, his solo album from 1989, Full Moon Fever, but then it does not include the Traveling Wilburys albums. Then a Finnish artist, Kauko Röyhkä ja Arttu, Ihmelapsi from 1988, 10th album, but that includes one mini album or EP. Another Finnish band, Kolmas Nainen, Me ollaan ne from 2012, 9th full-length studio album, but there is also one EP, and there is actually also one live album, full-length live album, but like I've told you before, I don't actually consider that to be part of the official catalog, because when the album was released, the band had broken up several years before, and that was like what I've called a blackmail album. Record company simply announced to them that they will be releasing a live album with or without your help. So the guitarist Sakari Pesola decided to compile the live album himself. Okay, The Cure, Entreat from 1990. This is the 10th album, but should this be considered as part of the official, how should I say, album run? Because this was actually originally given for free for those customers who bought 2 or more Cure releases. I don't remember if it was Cure albums or was it just like if you bought, for example, 2 singles, that you still get this one. But anyway, this was, I think it was in HMV shops. So this was given for free to those customers. But since many Cure fans started complaining that they already had everything, they didn't want to be buying same stuff again, this album was later released to the public at large. So if you don't consider that to be the 10th album, then Wish from 1992 is their 10th album. So hold on for a moment. Okay, then Style Council, Home and Abroad, live from 1986. This is the 10th Paul Weller album, including 6 studio albums and 1 live album from The Jam, and 2 studio albums from Style Council and this live album. But even then it does not include the mini album introducing the Style Council, which was not released in the UK and is just a compilation of their first 3 singles. Rod Stewart, Smiler from 1974. This is his 5th solo album, but there are also 5 albums that he made with the Faces, 4 studio and 1 live album. And I am not counting 2 albums that he made with Jeff Beck. I see those as being Jeff Beck albums. Then Paul Simon, Still Crazy After All These Years. 10th album from Paul Simon, including Simon and Garfunkel albums. John Fogerty, Centerfield from 1985. 10th John Fogerty album, including 7 albums by Creedence Clearwater Revival. And now again we move into slightly more difficult. This is White Album by the Beatles, 1968, and this is the 10th full-length album if you consider Magical Mystery Tour to be a full-length Beatles album, because that was originally issued as a double EP, but I consider that to be a full-length Beatles album. But if you don't consider Magical Mystery Tour to be a full-length album, then the 10th album is Yellow Submarine from 1969. The only thing being that the second side here is not by Beatles, it's George Martin's orchestral pieces. So if you don't consider this to be the 10th album, then Abbey Road from 1969 is the 10th album. And then finally Eric Clapton. Now this was a bit difficult. I was thinking that at which point should I actually start counting, and I decided that if I simply count the 10 of his solo albums, then this is the 10th album, Money and Cigarettes from 1983. But you could also start counting from Five Live Yardbirds from 1965. And if you start from there, then the 10th album is Derek and the Dominos' Layla. But then there are also releases like Live Cream. There are 2 Live Cream albums, and there's also In Concert by Derek and the Dominos, and there's Rainbow Concert, Eric Clapton's Rainbow Concert. Those would all push the number further on. And then there is John Mayall with Eric Clapton, Blues Breakers. So this one credits as this being John Mayall with Eric Clapton album, but to me this is John Mayall's Blues Breakers, in which Eric Clapton was a member. I definitely see this as being part of Eric Clapton catalog, but still usually the John Mayall and the Blues Breakers albums are John Mayall's albums. So there is a question mark with this if you should think it that way. But like I said, to me this is just as much Eric Clapton album as it is John Mayall album. Okay, that's it for this time. Hope you liked it. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment. Bye.